just going to see friends or family that you might not, get to see, or maybe you see them one time out of the year or something like that. And so that's what I really love about RV travel, is just going and being able to see friends and stay with them and hang out with them.
Hi, I'm Kim Tolson and I'm the traveling therapist. It's my passion to teach therapists how to navigate online private practices and multiple income streams so they can travel the world. I'm a digital nomad with a virtual insurance-based private therapy practice and a multi-six-figure coaching business. I'm obsessed with entrepreneurship and developing tools that can help therapists live an adventurous lifestyle. In this podcast, I will discuss my journey as a digital nomad. I'll chat with other traveling therapists and help you navigate the complexities of running an online insurance-based practice. I'm so glad to have you with me on this journey. Hi, everybody. I'm so glad you've joined us for another episode of The Traveling Therapist. And today I have Addie Wieland with us. And Addie's going to share her story about traveling in an RV and being a traveling therapist. And I'm so excited to hear all about this. Would you take a minute and just kind of tell us about yourself?
Sure. So my name is Addie Wieland, and I'm a licensed clinical social worker, licensed in Texas. I started doing online therapy in June of 2019, and then we hit the road in August of 2019. Yeah. So
wow,
been doing
that
it
is
off and
super
on.
exciting.
Well, been being a therapist, but traveling off and on since then.
That is super exciting. So when you say we, who's traveling with you? Is like your whole family or?
Yeah. So we moved into, well, I guess like the backstory, we
Okay.
had lived in Austin, Texas, which is like a really popular place to live in Texas right now. Housing's going up, all of that stuff. I was about to have my daughter. We weren't really sure if we wanted to live there, so we decided to move to South Texas, a small area where my family's from, to have my daughter. And then we didn't really love it. We didn't hate it, but we didn't really love it. We just didn't really know where we wanted to live. I was working at a college counseling center at the time, which I really loved. I loved working with college students.
Nice.
But we weren't really happy with where we were living. And so one day we were at Buc-ee's. If you guys know Buc-ee's, it's like a very huge gas station that has like all this fun things. Anyways, a lot of RVers. Yeah. If you ever get a chance to stop there, it is kind of an experience to stop there. But
that's cool. That's in Austin, because that's on our list.
It's a lot of places in Texas. I think.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, a lot of bigger cities in Texas, but definitely there's like one outside of Austin for sure.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. It's just like a fun gas station with lots of stuff, but a huge gas station. Anyways, we're at Buc-ee's and a lot of RVers travel through there. And so we just saw an RV pull up and I just like turned to the side and told my husband, what if we just like move into one of those and maybe like see if we could travel? And he was like, yeah, maybe we should. It was just kind of an idea that we had. So we just started researching it and actually found out that quite a few families did it. I found this really great family that did it on Instagram, and I just started following them and like reading up on it and stuff. Wow. And then, so we found like we could do it with our family. Then I wasn't really sure if I could do it as a therapist. I had gotten into the online therapy thing just because it was a little bit easier with my with a full-time job to do it on the side. I'd found Amber Lida's group that like taught me immensely all about online therapy and like that it was a thing that we could do, and love that group.
Same story here. Like I remember I was in Mexico the day I saw her online therapist group. I was like, what is this?
Yeah.
And that's what like started it all for me too. Like I'm so grateful for that group and for her.
Yes, yeah, for sure. Because I was like, oh, like this is possible. We can do this. This is awesome. So started doing all the research with that, and then found out like, okay, like I could do this. There wasn't really any stipulations that I could find within Texas for social work. The client just has to be in Texas. And so I was like, awesome. So yeah, just continue to kind of build out my practice for those couple of months. And then we hit the road, and that first trip, we went to the west side of the country. I'm terrible with directions, but yeah. So we went like to Colorado, up to Wyoming, like Yellowstone. Like we tried to do a lot of the big national parks, and we went to California and then all the way to the other side of the country. And so we were on the road that time until I want to say October. I can't remember, but it was several months.
Wow.
That first trip. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. And you had a baby with you? Your baby?
Yes, so she was 2.5 at the time.
Oh my
I want
gosh.
to say yes. We did travel with my sister and her husband, who also bought an RV.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and they actually had a younger baby, a little baby. So that was really nice in terms of like childcare because we could switch off with that, which I feel like is probably one of the hardest challenges for me with RV life is just in having young kids. I know a lot of people do it with older kids where, you just have a little bit more independence and you don't have to
Mm-hmm.
constantly be watching them like younger kids. So I would say that is probably one of the challenges for us just because when we don't travel with people or like, you just don't have family around to like, hey, can you come watch the kids so we could do a date night or
Yeah.
yeah.
Or
Um,
like trusted babysitters, or probably anything
right,
like that. Wow.
right. Yeah. So I feel
Gosh.
like that's one of the hardest things, yeah, for RV life with young kids.
So after that first trip across the country back and forth, did you guys then move back into a home, or did you have a place to move back to, or how'd you navigate that?
Yeah, so we had kept our house in Round Rock that whole time,
Oh,
outside
okay.
of Austin, and we rented it out for like extra income. But we've
Nice.
never moved back there after we moved out way back before my daughter was born. So we had lived in the RV the whole time. So we would just come back and kind of have like we've kind of just made our home base here in the Rio Grande Valley where my mother lives. And so we stay here for sometimes we're still trying to figure out the best like balance for us in terms of like traveling and then being home for a little bit. I feel like we like to travel for maybe about 6 months and then we're kind of like ready to settle for a bit and like do doctor's appointments and all the things.
Oh,
So we
that's
come
interesting.
back to either San Marcos area, which is where my mother-in-law lives, or we come back to the valley and stay for like a few months and just do like projects, hang out, all that stuff.
Yeah, that's
But
so
not a house.
interesting.
Yeah.
So being in the RV, it does start to feel like you still need like a home base, like you feel like you need to come back and just kind of nest again for a little bit and then go back out, or
For us, yes. Some people like
okay.
don't, and they'll just go the
Yeah.
whole time or they'll stay longer, in certain places. But for us, it does kind of feel like we need a little bit of rest after travel because travel is amazing, but it can also be, a little bit exhausting. And we
Yeah.
we've still trying to figure out the whole like how long do we stay in a place and move and all that. But we have a certain membership that is kind of like a travel. I know you asked for like travel tips and hacks.
Oh,
So,
cool. Yeah.
RV life is becoming more expensive and a lot more popular these days. Like lots of
Hmm.
people are getting RVs. It's harder to get spots. Just lots of families, especially since the pandemic, lots of families have been doing that and also traveling that way.
Wow.
So you can pay up to like 50, $60 a night, which can get a little expensive.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we like had budgeted like 1,000 a month, which is almost like, well, I guess maybe rent on the lower scale. But so in order to save money that way, there's this membership. It's called Thousand Trails, and they have
Oh.
lots of different membership options. But the one that we have is you pay like we pay I think around $500-$600 for a certain zone that we might be traveling in. I think there's like 5 or 6 zones across the US. So for example, this last trip there was a zone for Washington and Oregon and it had quite a few
Oh.
parks there, like a lot of parks there. Some states don't have any parks, like the middle of the US doesn't really have a lot of parks for some reason. So we paid for that zone. So that means that we can stay at any one of those Thousand Trails parks for up to 2 weeks for free. I mean, you pay for the membership, but for free. Then we have to be out of their system for like a week, meaning we can't stay at any Thousand Trail
Oh.
parks. And then we can go back for another 2 weeks. So we would do like two, one, two. We
That's
stayed there
awesome.
pretty much the whole time. And when we calculated it, it was like we were paying like $10 a night, for the amount of time that we like stayed there.
Wow. That is
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah, so it's a
How
really
cool is
good
that?
deal. Some of the parks are nicer than others, and they might
Okay.
not always be like some of them are a little more secluded or further away from the things that you might want to do. A lot of them are in like in smaller towns that you might not normally visit. But for the most part, most of them were fine and we like them. And, some of them were really great, like really close. One of them was really close to North Cascades, which is kind of out of the way national parks. So that was nice. But yeah, it helped us save money, so we did it.
That is so cool. Yeah, because
Yeah.
we're like in the process right now of reselling everything again. Because first we sold everything, we were going to be digital nomads, then COVID hit, and now over the last couple of years we started accumulating again in this house. So we're like now getting rid of everything again. But we're trying to navigate that same thing. Like, how long do we want to stay places? You know, is it going to get exhausting? You know, should we do like 30 days? Because we're going to do like Airbnbs and this other travel club I'm a part of called Inspirato.
Hmm.
So we're going to do Inspirato and then Airbnbs, but we're like, gosh, is a week here, a week there, a week here, a week there going to be just exhausting and trying to travel between each place. So, you know, I'm super curious about that, just like how people really navigate that, like staying out forever. And, you know, how long does it take to just get comfortable with it? Do you ever get comfortable with it? You know, I was reading something the other day and somebody was saying, well, you need at least 30 days in a place to just feel comfortable and settled. And, you know, if you go week to week, you're just going to be too tired to keep doing this. So I'm just, you know, super curious about that model that you're doing, you know?
Yeah, and I feel like every RVers are different. I know some people, well, some RVers, they choose to travel like with their partners if they're like on the pipeline or something, so they can be with them closer. And they stay for like months at a
Oh,
time, like 6 months at a time, whatever that contract is. And then others are more like us, me and my husband, where we work online so we can kind of travel, whatever. But I have found that I would say a week is a little bit too short for us because, yeah, like well, especially with RVs, I mean, it doesn't take like a whole lot of time, but you got to kind of go set up, like, open
mm.
up, do all the things. It takes like a good maybe like hour, 2 hours to do all of that. So, yeah, I feel like a week. So for us, we have to try. Well, we're a little bit more flexible now because my husband's job is a little bit more flexible, but we usually would just have to travel on the weekends.
Oh,
So
yeah.
my client schedule is Monday through Thursday. I take Friday off as like my adventure day, and that's where I go with my kids and we go on adventures. But
Oh,
um,
fun.
yeah, and so we would, when my husband's job was not as flexible, we'd have to travel like on Saturdays and Sundays. So that kind of cut out our weekends to explore in that area. So we would almost have to stay 2 weeks. So we would have at least one weekend there to like explore with my husband, and then the next weekend we would travel. I would say probably 3 weeks is our sweet spot, depending on the area.
Okay.
Some
That's
areas I
interesting.
feel
Yeah.
like it's probably too much time, depending on what's like around. And it's hard to know before you go there, right? What
Hmm.
if you're gonna like it or not. But I guess that's the nice thing about RV life is if it's really boring, you kind of just leave.
Yeah, that's true.
So, but that's what we kind of found for us. We really like the 3 weeks time. With Thousand Trails, it wasn't really possible, so we kind of had to do the 2 weeks.
Mm.
But
Oh,
it
right.
wasn't. It wasn't. I don't. I feel like my husband would prefer 3 weeks. I kind of like 2 weeks, so we're somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we
So
figure that out.
with the membership, is it pretty much like you have to decide within a couple of weeks of where you're going to be, or are you able to map it out and really have a plan for like say 6 months or something if that's how long you want to be gone?
Yeah, you can map it out, but there's certain stipulations I'll try to remember. And again, there's like different memberships, like you can pay more to have
Oh,
different
right.
things. But for the one
Okay.
that ours is, I think it's a 60-day window, meaning that you can book the place up to 60 days before.
Oh,
So we would
cool.
just kind of like set reminders on our phone to remember. And we had heard that it was really hard to get into Oregon and Washington stuff because that's a really popular area in the
Oh,
summer,
yeah.
but we didn't have any problems with at ours at all. So, but we were like right on, like, whenever the 60 days, we'd get on in the morning and reserve it. So I don't know if that made a
That's
difference or
so
not.
cool. Yeah, so interesting.
But I know like Florida, which is super popular in the winter for RVers, that's a whole different ballgame with Thousand Trails, and I haven't really investigated that, but
Oh, yeah.
I know in like
It's just
certain
super busy.
places. Yeah.
Saturated a bit. Yeah.
Yeah. For that.
So interesting. Yeah, that travel club we're doing, it's like a luxury travel club. So
Hmm.
it's going to be interesting because like literally the properties change like week to week. So
Hmm.
and you can only book it like after your last trip is finished, like the day you check out, you can book your next one. So we're literally going to have to just like go with the flow and be
Yeah.
like, okay, so we could get into this place in Sonoma, California. So what Airbnb do we want to go to before that? So we're just going to really have to just be like, you know, a
Super
couple weeks.
flexible.
Yeah, it's going to
Yeah.
be interesting. We don't know if we're going to love it or be totally exhausted.
Yeah. No,
you
some
know?
RVers really like that. And like I know there's one RV family that I followed on Facebook that had a pretty big family and they were like very go with the flow, didn't because like I said,
Wow.
nowadays you kind of have to if you're going to stay at RV parks, you kind of have to pre-book them because they'll be booked, especially again
Yeah.
by like national parks and stuff. But I just remember I was so amazed with this family. They did a more boondocking, which I can talk to you a little bit about, which
Oh,
is
yeah.
where you don't have any hookups and you just go on like either public land, which like Montana, Wyoming, Utah have a ton of public land. You can just go and park there for free, which is awesome.
Wow.
And so there's a couple of memberships if you can boondock that you can do. And so they would kind of just do that, which I guess allowed them a lot of flexibility. But I don't know. I'm kind of a type A, so I have to at least like sort of have a semi plan. RV life has definitely taught me to be more flexible, but I need like a general idea with it to like that seemed a little too stressful for me.
Yeah, I got you. So boondocking is like no hookups, meaning like water, plumbing, like all that stuff. Like you have none of that if you're boondocking.
Well, so you have it, but you have to have your own. So, like when you go to an RV
Oh, I
park, you
see.
just have a cord and you just plug into the electricity or water. You just plug in your black tank pipes. You just plug in. So you have all
Hmm.
the stuff right there. You're fully like ready to go. When you boondock, you just have to be set up to kind of sort of be off grid, I guess, a little bit. So a lot of people have like solar with solar panels to give them energy. We don't have that because it is pretty expensive to get started and we just weren't sure. So we have two generators that can run our full system for the most part. But so like the biggest thing is usually AC and to like turn on an AC is
Oh,
like a lot of energy. So we typically do not or we try to not go anywhere where it's super, where we're going to need AC, right? So when we traveled this fall, we didn't anticipate, but actually in Wyoming, when we did boondock, it was super hot. It was like hotter there than it was in Texas in like
wow.
September. Yeah, so we did need our AC, which it can only run one, and it gets kind of hot in the bedroom where I do my sessions. So,
Mm-hmm.
but whatever, we just had to figure that out. Yeah, we use generators for like electricity, and it's fine with pretty much everything but the AC, just with to have our generators on. And then for
Wow.
water, so we have a tank. I forget how much it carries, quite a bit. So we would just like fill that up before we go. And then if for whatever reason we run out, we also have this like it's called a water bladder where we can go to a gas station and fill it up and then bring it back and fill our tank again. We just have to with our black tank, we can't like dump that because that's disgusting. So we for like boondocking, it's pretty much like a 2 week stop. We can't stay longer than 2 weeks. Or if we do, we have to go and dump our black tank and like come back.
Gotcha.
Yeah, but
Wow.
you can
That is
stay in
so interesting.
some, yeah, beautiful boondocking places. Like Montana has some gorgeous just land with the mountains. Colorado, we
Wow.
stayed in a really cool boondocking spot, like right outside of Zion National Park in Utah. So you
Oh,
can find some
nice.
cool spots there, which is nice.
Oh, that is amazing.
Yeah.
So, how has the internet been? Like, we're all online traveling therapists. So, how has the internet been like in these different places? I'm just curious about like troubleshooting. Like, have you ever just had to cancel a week of clients because you don't have the internet, or
Yes,
just how does
yes.
that work for you?
Yes. So internet, I feel too, was probably like our biggest challenge, especially in the beginning. I feel like I'd get so anxious about, because obviously it's my like livelihood, so
Yeah.
anxious about like internet and like trying to do research on if it's going to work and all that thing. So,
Oh gosh.
we, in the beginning, we had a service like kind of through a third party AT&T through AT&T, which we have found that AT&T through our travels, which again, we've done most of like the West Coast. We haven't really done East Coast as much, Central and West, that AT&T has been our best bet in terms of like coverage. We've pretty much gotten
Oh,
coverage
interesting.
everywhere with AT&T except if there was a spot outside of Montana. It was pretty rural though. Again, we were boondocking. It was close to Grand Tetons. And then for some random reason, this trip, Leavenworth, Washington, which is kind of a city. But
Huh.
so we also have Verizon, the iPad plan or something like I don't know. My husband doesn't know
Oh,
what the thing.
okay.
It's like to buy an iPad and you get like the internet or wire, a hotspot. That's what you get. You get a hotspot
Oh, okay.
on top of it. So we have Verizon, and that's what a lot of families do is they have two plans
carriers.
to kind of like always be covered. But honestly, we found we really don't even really need Verizon, to be honest. We never really used it that. I mean, the most we used it for was my daughter watching stuff in the car. But like I said, AT&T pretty much had coverage, and when it didn't have coverage, Verizon didn't have coverage either. So the
Oh, right.
area wasn't a great thing. So this trip, I just tried to be a little bit more flexible with it. And a lot of my clients are longer term clients. So they like know that I travel. They know that I live in an RV. Well, basically I've done a lot of sessions in our truck. So that's just kind of how I've troubleshooted it. If I don't have internet, I just don't freak out. I just drive until I'm in a good space.
Nice.
I kind of park my truck in a secluded-ish area. It's pretty like tinted. I sit in the back seat. I put like towels and stuff like on the windows. And I just kind of tell them like, oh, I got my truck today. I didn't have really good service. And really they really don't care or they don't seem to care. That's just what I've done, which again isn't like ideal. Our first trip, I feel like I had to do that more for whatever reason. I
Hmm.
wouldn't have as great service. And it is a little bit annoying, especially if you have like back-to-back sessions. It can be, annoying. But this trip I didn't have to do it as much. And yeah, it kind of was fine.
Yeah.
It is a little tricky with us, I know, because we can't just go to like a coffee shop or like, you know, any of that stuff because we have to be like private. And
Yeah.
sometimes I've tried to find like, oh, you know what I did to do this trip that was awesome
Hmm.
is I found a study room at a library that I could rent out. And so
Oh,
I went there and that was perfect.
that's a
I think
great
that was,
idea.
yeah, I think that was in Leavenworth. I just called and asked if I could reserve their study room for like, I think I had 2 sessions, 2 hours. I did it there and it was perfect.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
So does your husband have to be online too? I'm curious, like, or is he in meetings also? I don't know what he does for a living, but I just wonder, like, how do y'all navigate that, like, with the kids and working? Like, I
Yes.
just wonder about that.
Yes, it's definitely kind of a juggle. He's in like sales and does like so he has does have meetings mostly throughout the day. So he does his meetings usually start or he usually starts working around like 8:30 and then he'll go to around like 4, sometimes 5. And I have my sessions start at 4, usually like 4 to 6 or
Oh,
4 to 7. So I do it more in the evenings and he does it more during the day. And so we just switch off like that. So we're usually sometimes the 4 overlap, but his clients are so we have 2 kids now. We had a second baby on the road, which is also
oh,
interesting.
oh my
um,
gosh.
well, not like on the road, but like he was a baby. We started traveling the second time. So my daughter can pretty much kind of do her own thing for like an hour, and so it's usually just my son. But I guess his clients, I mean, his is not like, they don't have to be super private.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit
Yes.
different.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, that
Yeah.
makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
So we
that's
do
so
it that
interesting.
way. So we're never on the internet or like at the same time busy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Wow. So when is your next trip? You said you're kind of home based right now. What's your next big adventure you guys are going on?
Yeah. So we never quite like know, like we always are just flexible of like, do we want to keep doing this? Are we ready to maybe settle down? Like, how are we feeling? And we never quite know until maybe like we've been settled for a month or two and then we kind of like get the itch to like go back out again. So right now we are going to be here at my mom's, well, at least with the RV. We might travel ourselves, but without the RV for a good 2 months. So, I mean, obviously the holidays are right now, but our kids' birthdays are February and March. So, and we also have a huge family reunion that's has been postponed since COVID for the past 2 years. So it's kind of a big deal. So we're going to be in Texas probably until like mid-March. And then we're thinking of doing more of the East Coast. So we love Florida, or I love Florida. My husband does too, but I just love the beaches in Florida. I'm totally a beach girl.
Yeah.
So we really want to make a stop in Florida and hang out there for a little bit. And then we kind of want to do like a friends and family tour. I feel like that's what's really fun with
Oh,
traveling is
nice.
like just going to see friends or family that you might not, get to see, or maybe you see them, one weekend out of the one time out of the year or something like that. And so that's what I really love about RV travel is just going and being able to see friends and stay with them and hang out with them. So we have quite a bit of friends and family more a little bit on the East Coast. So we're going to make a couple stops and like we have some friends in Nashville, we have some friends in Minnesota that we want to go see, we have some friends in Pennsylvania. We really want to do like Maine and New York. We
Nice.
heard that that is like really gorgeous. So we're going to try to do that for a little bit, uh, and then just kind of see how we feel, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
so interesting.
Mhm.
So, I'm curious, when the kids get older, are you guys going to homeschool, or have you even thought about that? Or, what do you plan to do with the kids with this
Ye-
traveling lifestyle?
Yeah, that's a good question. I feel like I'm
Oh,
so torn with that. So
mm,
obviously being in the RV life, we've met a lot of families actually through Instagram that are also RVers, which has been super, super fun. And my daughter loves other kids, so she's gotten to play and like hang out with them. And a lot of the other families have older kids, so I've definitely like picked their brain about like homeschooling. And there's also this thing called unschooling that's kind of like
I've heard
taking
of
a year
that.
off.
Yeah.
And
Mm,
yeah. So just like talking to them and just seeing how they do it and like how they navigate it and all of that stuff. So we haven't totally decided yet. I'm I think it almost might be dependent like on our kids. I feel like my daughter, she was in school for a little bit when we came back to Texas to have my son. So we came
mm.
back and we're home for a few months to like maybe a month before he was born and like 3 months after he was born. And she went to a Montessori school there and she like loved it and like made friends and stuff. And we even ask her sometimes like, hey, would you want to go back to school or do you want to travel? And she always says school and we're like bummed. But
It's like,
so
no, don't say
yeah.
that.
So I feel like she would really thrive in school. Yeah. And even if we didn't travel and I felt like maybe homeschooling is an option. I feel like that's still an option, just even if we don't travel. But we haven't quite gotten there. If we maybe still want to, I think travel will always be part of our lives. We love it. We would love to go like international travel, for a little bit too. And we've thought about that. So I think even if they are in school, it might look a little bit unconventional and maybe like doing in the summers, or we'll just kind of like see. So we're open to,
Yeah, just play it by ear. Hmm.
yeah, to
Yeah, I
anything.
think that's got to be a tough decision. We don't have kids. Well, he has an older kid. She's 25, so we don't have to worry about her. But I think it's got to be tough with young kids trying to figure out the best way to handle all that. So
Yeah.
interesting.
I know a
Hmm.
lot of RVers have older kids and they try to like communicate with them and see what they're open to. And some of them love the travel. And in terms of socialization, again, a lot of people do this. A lot of families use the Thousand Trails membership. So it's almost like a summer camp
Yeah.
when you go, because like there's so
Yeah.
many kids there. In terms of socialization, it's never like they're not around other kids. I mean, my daughter met kids all the time at the playground, that she would play with and hang out with. So it's not that. I know some kids might be really into sports and so they like want to play a sport. And I know this one family that I follow, they actually just stopped in Vegas actually for like a few months so their son and daughter could do like sports. So anything is
Oh,
really possible
cool.
with it. You're flexible and stuff. Yeah. So
Yeah, that is so awesome.
yeah,
I
it's
just
kind of
love
cool.
it. I just love these like just alternative lifestyles, It just
Yeah.
seems like so much fun, so interesting.
Yeah, for sure.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's been fun.
So I was just thinking, kind of out of order from what we were talking about, but the RV lifestyle, like what went into like picking your RV? This probably is a totally complicated topic, but I just wonder, just are there a couple things like maybe somebody should think about if they want to do the RV lifestyle?
Yeah, I think you want to think about like where you want to go. Do you want to do more RV parks? Do you want to do more boondocking? Definitely
Okay.
if you want to do more boondocking, I would suggest a smaller rig like our fifth wheel. We have a mid-bunk fifth wheel, which is one of those really big ones that you hook
Wow.
on to the truck. And so fifth wheels are awesome, I feel like, for full-time living because you really just feel like you're in a little apartment. They have tall ceilings. Like, again, we have 2 bedrooms, which is amazing, a pretty big living area. But yeah, in some of these more boondocking secluded places, it is a little hard to get that big old thing back there. So if you
Yeah.
want to do a lot of boondocking, I would just suggest, and you don't, well, actually, some people have kids in them and are fine. But yeah, I would suggest like a smaller rig because that would just be a little bit easier to navigate. And some of like the national parks, if you want to stay in the national parks, they have a length regulations and stuff like you can't be over a certain length. So you kind of have to think about that. But if you have kids, I think that's a different dynamic. Well, I guess you could, but probably need like a second room. So just figuring that out. So the two popular models in fifth wheels are like the mid bunk, which has a room in the middle and it has a
Mm,
pretty bigger living space area. Like we have
okay.
two like kind of a three-seater couch and then a two-seater couch. So it's pretty like big living area. And then the other popular one is a fifth wheel, which I mean a fifth wheel, a toy hauler, which has a smaller living area, but it has a pretty big garage, but it's also a bedroom in the back of the camper. A lot of people pick that one. A lot of people pick that one and actually put their master in the back where the garage is and put like the kids in the master bedroom in the front because the toy hauler has a patio that it puts down. So it's kind of cool like to have your own little private patio back there. So I guess you have to kind of think about that with kids. And then yeah, like we just really wanted a big living space because like our kids are mostly wherever we are, not necessarily in their rooms. That was kind of why we chose our model in a sense. But so I'd say you have to kind of think about that. And then I think people just have like certain deal breakers that they really want in their RV, like I don't even know. Well, for sure, like a separate bedroom for the kids, or we
Mm.
are another deal breaker, or not deal breaker, but I guess like that's really nice in our RV that came with it was a full size fridge. I feel like when you're full time living, especially with kids, like those little fridges just are not going to cut it.
Oh my gosh, I
So
bet.
having like a full size fridge is really nice with that aspect. So I feel like it's kind of dependent, but that's kind of what went into ours. And of course, like what kind of truck you have, or what kind of truck you're
Yeah.
wanting to get, because we have like a huge dually truck that is able to pull this big thing. And, not
Wow.
everybody like has that sometimes.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
So interesting. I know there's got to
Yeah.
be so much that goes into even deciding on what to do with that, but yeah, that's a good starting point for people to even know the differences.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And there's so many like YouTubes and stuff out there just to like having help you to like figure out what you might want
Yeah.
and need. Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Let me just look here. Gosh, you almost answered all the questions that I thought of. Let me see.
Naturally.
There's I kind of like this question. What would the old you say to the traveling version of you? Like if it could like give advice. I know that's a hard question, but
Yeah. So the old me say to the traveling me, I think that she would just be proud of me, honestly. I think this was like a random dream that we had. And I know when we would tell people about it, they were like a little bit like, how's it gonna work? And with kids and you live in an RV and travel, like that seems a little weird or like too good to be true. And I think especially with the whole like online therapist thing, it's so interesting that I started doing the online therapy pre-pandemic and, honestly got a kind of a lot of negative feedback from therapists about like it's not real therapy or is
mm-hmm.
that ethical or I remember my boss at the time at the college counseling center was just like like I don't know about that.
Right.
He was like rude, but you could tell he was like a little bit like, is that a thing? And then man, the pandemic hit and man, did all those people come running towards me like, what are you telling me
Yeah.
to do? And I'm like, wait, weren't you kind of questioning this earlier? So, that was interesting there, just seeing like all these people
Totally.
then like turn to online therapy.
I remember the same deal. Like after I took Amber's step by step course, and after
Uh-huh.
that, I was like, I'm out of here, this brick and mortar. And everybody in my office was like, what? How are
Right.
you gonna? You can't do this. I was like, I'm doing it.
Yeah.
half of them thought it was cool, and the other half were like, this is a bad idea. Like you can't see clients like this. And I was like, yes, you can. You really
Yeah.
can.
Yeah.
But now, of course, we
Same.
know that.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Same. Exactly. So, and I know that, you know, at first when you're trying something scary, you have those voices in your head like, can you do this? Are you sure you're gonna do this? And for the first round, my husband wasn't working, so it was all me. So that was like a lot of pressure. And it's like, can
Mm.
I do this? Leaving my job, my nice, secure,
Yeah.
counseling job, university counseling job, and taking this risk. So I think she would say she was proud of me that I did it and we did it, and that, yeah, even if you have the craziest idea, I say just go for it, try it. And if it doesn't work out, you're not stuck there. You could go back to a house. Totally, totally
Totally.
fine. Yeah.
I love
So
that. Thank you. Thanks for
Yes,
sharing that.
of course.
So are you documenting your journey anywhere, like a Instagram or anything like that, where people can follow you if they wanted to?
Yeah, so we document our travels on Instagram. It's I can give you the tag, but it's Wieland with the Wielands. It's just like, yeah, I can pretty, but it's, and there's like a little underscore under it, but
Cool. We'll share it if you don't mind. We'll share it in the
yeah,
show notes in case people want to follow you.
yeah, sure. So we try to document our travels there. I'm not like great at it, but yeah, we try to like just at least give a summary of like the different places that we've been and like what we've done and stuff
So
like that.
cool. And that's on Instagram.
Yes, on Instagram.
Oh, what a great name.
Hmm.
Wheeling with
Yeah.
the Wielands, right?
Yes,
Is that how you
yes.
pronounce your last name? Okay.
Wielands, yeah.
Nice. Oh my gosh, exciting. I'm going to go follow you right after I get off of here.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
thank you
So,
so much for sharing. Is there anything else you want to share? Or if you want to, if any potential clients are listening from Texas, if they want to reach out and work with you, do you want to share any information about how to work with you professionally?
yes, I am taking a little bit of clients. I mean, obviously, depending on when this comes out, but you can just
Yeah.
find information on my website, which is just www.everydaybraverycounseling.com. I work a lot with young people, specifically that have been affected by trauma or just have some like self-esteem issues, self-worth stuff. So, yeah, you can find information on my website there if you want to work with me.
Thank you.
Yes,
Thanks so
thank
much
you.
for taking the time today.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. I think it's so cool that what you're doing and that lots of people are doing it and like to have a community of people doing it. And it's really cool. And just to see where
Thank you.
everybody's been, like international, which is definitely something we're
Yeah,
interested
I
in.
love learning about this stuff, and I am so passionate about helping other therapists do it too because I love it so much, you know.
Yes.
So stories like yours are really going to help people, like maybe that thought they couldn't do it or they were worried about internet or whatever, or the kids, you know. Hopefully this will inspire them to get a little more adventurous with it.
Yeah, you can definitely do it for sure. You just have to, a little logistics, but you can do it.
Yes. Thank you
Yes.
so much.
Yes. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much for listening to the Traveling Therapist podcast. For show notes, links, and downloads, head over to thetravelingtherapist.com, where you'll be able to learn more about my journey, the courses I've created for you, and other exciting resources to make your dreams become a reality. If you've enjoyed this episode, please share with your traveling therapist friends, subscribe to the podcast, and if you love this episode, please leave a review.